Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. This episode kicks off a series of interviews we did during NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. For this first episode, we are happy to bring you interviews with the founder of NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, Warren LeGarie, as well as with my longtime friend and director of team operations, Marni Colbert. I have seen NBA Summer League grow over the years from a handful of teams with a relatively small fan base to a thriving enterprise with all 30 teams participating and a really, really tough ticket to get. Fans come from all over the world to see young stars make their NBA debut, such as Zion Williamson, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama last year, and this year, of course, Bronny James. As you can imagine, Warren and Marni are super busy during Summer League, so a big thanks to them for stopping by and chatting with me on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. Well, this was unexpected, my friend. I'm here with the Godfather.
That's Summer League. It's always unexpected.
That's right.
That's what we specialize in.
The Godfather of NBA Summer League.
Does that mean I'm old? Is that what Godfather?
We're both old, buddy.
Right.
I mean, I'm sitting
Does
behind
that mean if I'm near the tomato field, I'm going to start doing this or what?
Warren, it's great to see you. We go back literally to the beginning of Summer League together.
Summer League.
I mean, this is the 20th year. Can you believe it?
When I look in the mirror, no.
Yeah.
Because I don't recognize that guy. Inside, yes.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful thing that it's like a baby that's been like birthed for 20 years, right?
And there were some teenage years that were a little tougher than others.
Right.
But now it's grown into a beautiful child.
It's amazing. Well, let's go back to the beginning, okay? So how did the idea of Summer League start?
Primarily, it was pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many summer leagues all over the place.
Right.
And it was tough because flying in, they weren't big-time cities, so you had to – you had to take transfers on this plane or jump. And it was my business at that time. I was an overseas agent. That's what I was actually called, the overseas agent. I didn't really do any NBA players, and because there was no way I could do it. I'm not better than the agents they already had here.
Right.
So I found a niche in Europe where nobody was doing Europe at that time. But summer leagues were imperative in order to find those players that were cussed or not going to make that NBA, but were still good enough. So I went to them, and it was, first of all, they would only last 3 or 4 days. So you're planning on meeting somebody, but life happens when you're making these plans.
Sure.
So they don't, now you've just lost it, now you've got to go find them someplace else.
Oh, boy.
And it's traumatizing at times.
Yeah.
Because you're really counting, because kids were counting on still being able to eat.
Sure.
So the idea of trying to find one place where, and at that point, I'm not saying it was a little bit underhanded, but the Players Association had this rule that players couldn't be forced to practice during the summers. It was the weirdest thing.
That wasn't like in the contract?
It was
that
that was part of the collective
I
bargaining.
had no idea.
And if you did it, you would be fined.
Yeah.
But Seattle at that time, George Karl had brought in from Europe, and he took over for Casey, and all of a sudden, magic just happened up there, and they became an exciting. But they were also really consolidated. They just liked each other. They liked being around each other. They liked what was going on.
Yeah.
And so they used to come down here under alias names at the Luxor. It was always the Luxor.
Okay.
That was connection with Sonny Vaccaro and Tim Gergovich, who was coaching, and a guy named Michael Starr, who ended up taking over the Mandalay afterwards. But it was just set up so that you came down here, you practiced your balls off, and then at nighttime, you have a little different, work, or a little work vocation.
Was there a court? There wasn't a court over there.
We could find high schools.
Oh, my God, really?
Because Gerg was connected to every high school.
That's crazy. I had no idea that was the genesis.
And part of it was also players were starting to live here because of the tax. And some from overseas. And Tim was always the player whisperer. He would always be working guys out all the time. And he was hitting me, kid, come on, we got to bring these guys here. We got to do all, let's make it easier. So it was like, why not here?
Yeah, sure.
Life is, you could ask why or why not.
Yeah.
I like the why not part. And so it started growing.
I like that attitude. So how did the marriage with UNLV and Thomas and Mack, how did that all come about?
It was very, very, all right, first time I came here, because it was the only one that, there really weren't any courts at that time.
No, there was no arena. This was the only arena.
It was the only arena at the time. But I met the guy who was he wasn't the athletic director, but he was in charge of of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Cox. It was smaller.
Yeah.
We were not looking at Thomas and Mack in
okay.
those days.
All right.
We were humble. And I realized this guy has been doing big-time deals with concert people and everything else. There's no way I was going to be left with anything. He was going to carve and slice me up like some Thanksgiving dinner. And I was like, and it just, again, luck and timing.
Yeah.
That basically describes my life.
Well,
I met this guy from Michael Jordan's, what do they call that camp? The
flight school or
or
something.
whatever,
Yeah.
but it was like the fantasy camp.
Fantasy camp. Which was here in Vegas.
and
Right,
he-
I shot it once.
And he was asking, I had this young player. This was a guy who was a booking agent for Dave Matthews, Fish, Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So he asked a couple of coaches there. One was Mike Fratello. Who should he talk to about getting a player overseas? And my name came up. He happened to live in Monterey, which is near. I live in the Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco.
I didn't know that.
Not now. I live in Costa Rica.
Oh.
I visit there.
Oh.
And he called me up out of the blue, and we met at this place called. At that time, it was called Smoke.
Okay.
And for a lot of reasons, it was called Smoke. We were in the Haight-Ashbury, and we started talking, and I was going to help the player. Good guy, nice guy, and he goes, and I told him about what we're trying to do in the summer league, and he says, "Well, do you know Darren Limonati? That was the guy who was running Thomas and Mack." And he goes, I said, he goes, yeah. I book all my acts there for New Year's and that Fish.
Sure.
He ended up taking over the negotiation from me, which was not negotiation. It was a one-side beatdown, okay? And I was getting beat down. We didn't pay rent the first year.
No way,
Because
really?
he promised Fish for New Year's an extra night.
Oh, boy. Wow.
4 to 2, just luck.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But another guy involved
That's
that helped us
funny.
get, and nobody knows this,
Yeah.
very few people know, it's a bar bet you can win.
Yeah?
Another partner, Bob Myers.
I had no idea.
Nobody had an idea.
Wait, Bob Myers?
Bob Myers, the famous Bob Myers, Mr.
The former GM? That Bob Myers?
Bob is always going to be a GM in his
Okay.
mind, okay?
Yeah, I had no idea. How did he fit into the whole? Well, he was an agent back then.
Big-time agent with Arn. Arn was my original partner when I got into this business.
Right. Arn, tell him.
So Bobby could get Reebok because he was close friends with a guy named Tom Shine.
Okay. Yeah, I knew Tom.
They gave us, I hope I'm past the statute of limitations. They gave us $25,000. Not under the table. It was over. And that's why it was the Reebok Summer League.
$25,000.
And this is, we're not associated with the NBA at this point.
Yeah. I remember.
Right.
And you had maybe 16?
No, first year we had 6.
Yeah.
Literally, we went to 6 to 12 the second year.
Yeah.
And it was like, and they wanted to come.
Yeah.
And it's.
Yeah, but there were still summer leagues going on in
yes.
Utah, I believe, and Orlando, maybe a couple other places.
A couple other places, too.
So how did it all develop that all 30 teams now are here?
War of attrition. And there was Long Beach, too, okay? War of attrition.
It was Long Beach, wow.
So
yeah.
clearly Utah was not happy with us, okay?
Yeah.
So they kept pushing their dates closer and closer to July 4th.
Yeah.
So it put us, we were like going to have to start in June, and you can't.
You can't because the NBA finals are still going on.
So it was a real tug of war.
Yeah.
And Long Beach, no matter what, we wanted the Lakers. You always want the Lakers.
Of course.
This was the Laker town. When Kareem Abdul-Jabbar became the all-time leading scorer, it was in the convention center.
I was here, my friend.
You had that? You saw that hook?
It was here.
Sky hook from the right corner, right?
Yeah. I didn't get the shot because I got blocked, but that's a whole other story. But I was here. What year was that? 84, right?
Someplace there.
Yeah. I might be the only media member who is at Kareem's breaking Wilt's record and LeBron breaking Kareem's record.
That puts you in a special pedestal,
I'm
baby.
just old as hell.
No, again, fortuitous. You happen to be in the right place.
Exactly.
We're both Forrest Gumps.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about my former boss, David Stern, and his vision for Summer League. Was it a mandate that he now wanted? Because you said back then players weren't really allowed to practice formally in the summer.
I think they had I think they had changed the rule because it was being broken left and right.
Yeah.
And by the way, how do you not let guys play if you want to improve your product?
Exactly. I mean, I can understand skydiving and motorcycle racing.
But that's in the contract. You can't do that.
Right.
And you can, but you're giving up your contract if it happens.
And you're insane if you do it anyway.
But it was at that point, because so many people were doing it, they decided. And more importantly, the Players Association realized we're helping our players by them getting better. Now, it's not mandatory. It still has to be voluntary. But what player doesn't want to get better for his other teammates? There's a certain peer pressure, too, in this stuff.
And people think, misguidedly that it's only rookies. It's not just rookies. It's second-year players. It's guys who in G League want to move up. This is a showcase for them.
We had Amari Stoudemire one year who was coming back from a catastrophic injury. He used Summer League as a way to calibrate where they're at.
I remember
Ron
that.
Artest was also coming back.
Yeah.
But he was on the fence. I promised him I was going to. He had just released a new record or whatever it was. I agreed to play it all day in Cox. If he would play, Rick Adelman wouldn't talk to me for a long time after that.
That's hilarious. Well, Warren, just really quick, the 3 most memorable moments in the history of NBA Summer League for you. You personally, maybe not for the for the organization or.
When I finally got to meet the fire marshal when he was telling us we had to shut the doors, and that was the game with Wall and Jeremy Lin.
That's right. I was here for that actually.
And their door coming, to get into the gym was 30, 40 minutes long. I found Peter Guber and who was the business manager? I mean, who was the guy who put the stadium?
Joe Lacob?
No.
Paul Schaefer?
No, the business. He used to be in Phoenix.
Who are you thinking about? I don't know.
But he was. Yeah. I'm looking at his face. Rick
Wells?
Rick Wells.
Okay.
They're standing in line. I'm going, what are you doing? Well, we're being polite. Well, I know people who know people here. So I answered him so they could see it. But
that's a good memory.
That was a game changer. That's when we went to the second gym. Second gym had never happened in Summer League.
Right.
So it separated us from all the clutter of previous, and it made us a talk point. It made us a New York Times article.
Yeah, it's funny because when I would be out here working and I would have to go from one gym to the other, my kids were maybe 10, 11, 12, and they would just have free reign. They would go from one building to the other building. It was the greatest thing ever. They loved it.
You're walking next to Danny Ainge.
Yeah.
You're walking to Kevin. You're talking.
No, that's what's amazing.
And that's the and that's the informality. That's
Yeah.
something we've always preached and encouraged.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a regular season game.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because there's too restrictive. You can't go anywhere. Yeah. But it's an NBA experience because of all the people you get a chance to experience it with.
Exactly. Well, I'm thankful that you and everyone here has been so welcoming to Legends of Sport. To me, I have a lot of history here, but also this is a whole new gig for me. So thank you, Warren.
It looks like you're off to a good start, except I hope they edit this all out.
Come on,
this right here. There's a little bit of a setback for you.
I can't thank you enough.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Especially today stopping by. Thank you so much.
Are you kidding? This would be a place I would spend all day with if I could.
We'll do a longer
Albert won't let
one.
me. He makes me get out and stay work a little bit.
Well, you're the boss. You got to run the joint.
No,
So thanks for coming.
Very kind to say that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have to say welcome to Summer League because here's the woman who runs Summer League, has been doing Summer League since day one. Marni Colbert, my great friend. We've been friends for a gazillion years. Tell me your history with Summer League because I don't actually know it.
I actually got started in Irvine.
No way.
When Magic bought a piece of the Summer League.
Okay.
And
what year was that?
That was 98,
Wow.
I believe, 97, 98.
I didn't know that.
And so I started going down there all the time, and then it moved up to Long Beach.
Right. And how many teams were in Long Beach at that point? Warren told me earlier, but I forgot.
I think we only had like 8.
Yeah.
But we had all the free agent teams.
Right.
Which one of was Warren's.
Right.
And I ran that for 2 years.
Yes.
And then got a job with the Nuggets with Kiki Vandeweghe and moved to Denver.
You moved to Denver. That was a big move, as I remember at that time.
It was a huge move. It was amazing, though.
Yeah.
And then started working with players. And Warren calls me one day and says, we got Summer League.
Yeah.
But he had told me from day one in Long Beach, he said, I'm going to get a Summer League in Las Vegas, and I'm going to hire you to run it. And I just said, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
Like,
Call
it's
me.
Warren.
Yeah.
It's Warren. Like, you're like, okay, you're an agent, whatever you say.
Yeah.
And in 2004, the call came.
Yeah. Wow. 20 years. I mean, I can't even ask you to give me like your top 5 memories, but I remember coming to the first year and the first few years, and my kids were, I think they were like 11, 10, whatever they were. And I'd be running back and forth between Cox and Thomas and Mack, and they'd be working, doing whatever they wanted to do and buying basketballs and dribbling around. And there weren't a lot of people here, right? It was a little bit of, I don't want to say it was a ghost town, but people just didn't realize what was happening here. But as it grew, back then, how many teams were playing?
We started with 6 teams.
Yeah, 6 teams.
And only played in Cox.
That's right. And now, that's right. Warren told me that. And now you're all 30 teams. It's nationally televised. This is a major NBA event every year. I mean, you ever sit back and say, whoa, I mean, I did pretty good at this. Do you take that in, Marty?
I do.
Hope?
I do. I mean, it's amazing. It's more so for me, the relationships.
Yeah.
Getting to see people, at least once a year.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
just to look at it
Yeah.
and see just where it started to where it is.
Yeah.
That we're 20 years in. We're all still together.
Right. Nobody's killed each other.
Nobody's killed each other.
Maybe wanted to along the way.
Probably.
It's funny. I'm lucky I get to see you more than once a year because you do come to LA and you introduced 2 of our greatest friends to each other,
yes.
right? Chris and Jess Bodakin, my dear friends. Their daughter Allie is working the concourse literally right behind us right now.
Yep.
I mean, how full circle is that for you?
It's amazing. It's just, well, first of all, it's crazy that Allie's old enough to be working there for us.
She's going to be, a junior, right?
Yes.
In college? Yeah.
So,
crazy.
I mean, and Jess and I have been kind of inseparable since, 10th grade, 11th grade?
Yeah, incredible.
So.
Wow. Can you give me 2 memories, 2 things that stand? I asked Warren, and of course he didn't have 2, he had like 22.
20.
But 2 transformative moments at Summer League. I mean, he pointed out about what am I forgetting? Oh, I'm sorry. He pointed out about Lonzo Ball, that game with Lonzo Ball, which sort of brought all the attention here into Las Vegas. I mean, do you have a moment or a couple of moments that you can point to?
I mean, I think my first and most poignant moment was the first tip.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's just so many different memories with different people and different experiences and watching it grow. And just sometimes you just sit there and you're like, wow, like I'm a part of this.
Yeah.
Like we did this.
I helped to create it.
Mm-hmm.
I was here last year with Wemby's debut. That was wild, man.
That was fun.
I mean, the other night with Bronny was pretty good too, but Wemby with all the expectations and all the hype, and I was here with my son and we were up in the stand. And that was like an all-star game, NBA Finals moment. It was incredible.
It is. It's but it's a testament to the people of Vegas and everyone who comes every year and supports us and the energy that they give us and the staff and all of our interns and the energy that they put forth every night that lets us go and keep going and it's a long 10 days.
Yeah, it's a long 10 days, but it's a long year leading up to those 10 days for sure. Let's talk about Vegas for a second. Okay, so 20 years ago, Vegas was not known. I mean, it was boxing and they had a few other things going on here, but, tennis, I shot a little bit, but there was no professional sports here. UNLV was it. There was only one arena, which is this arena, and now there's, I don't even know how many arenas there are in Vegas. So it's become like the mecca of sports now, right? And NBA Summer League is a staple of that calendar. I mean, that's got to be incredibly gratifying.
It is. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's we came for in-season tournament and there was
In-season
already buzz.
Right.
There was already buzz about Summer League.
Right.
So
right.
the buzz is out there and the locals come and we have great support and it's fun.
Yeah. Could you imagine what's the next phase of Summer League? I mean, I don't even know if there is a next phase. I mean, it seems like all 30 teams enjoy being here. There used to be fractional summer leagues all over the place, and they all got consolidated here. And the NBA backs it and is obviously a huge part of what goes on here. But the infrastructure that you run, I mean, you're going to hand that off to somebody at some point.
I don't plan on it.
I know Warren said, I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly.
He went to Costa Rica, so I don't know where you're going to end up.
I mean, Costa Rica isn't bad.
Yeah,
it doesn't suck.
Yeah, I know. Marni, you and I met a long time ago, and it was really through your dad. And your dad was one of the nicest people I ever met on the court, and I know how much you miss him. We all miss him. What 1 or 2 things did you learn from your dad about work ethic or professionalism? Because he was one of a kind, your dad.
He was.
Yeah.
He was the best.
Yeah.
basically he taught me everything I know. How to carry myself, how to present myself, how to represent him. By me being me, I'm representing him.
Yeah.
And
Good
I
point.
think one of my best memories is of him saying to me, we just turned a corner because I was no longer Bob's daughter.
Yeah.
Or I was no longer,
Yeah.
okay, I'm like going backwards. It was no longer, oh, that's Bob's daughter. It's now, oh, that's Marnie's dad.
That's right. That's Marty's. I like that.
You know, so it was kind of like everyone knew him because of me, whereas
Yeah.
before it was everyone knew me because of him.
You know what? That I could see that happening. Yeah. Yeah, I used to bring my dad, you probably don't even remember, but I used to bring him to games all the time, and we travel and all that stuff. And his nickname was Zelig because when I took him to the Dream Team in Monte Carlo and Barcelona, he was literally in almost every picture. I don't know how he got in every picture I took, but there's a very famous picture of Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson at the Palace in Monte Carlo, and there's my dad peeking out from the
I've
other
seen
side.
it.
It's hilarious. Well, Marni, can't thank you enough for hosting us here at Summer League Legends of Sport podcast. I mean, this is a real launching point for us. It kind of legitimizes us to have our logo here with what you got going on behind us. So thank you so much for believing in me as your friend, but also what we're trying to do, the mission of Legends of Sport. So I appreciate your crew. Everyone out there is unbelievable.
Thank you.
It's been a phenomenal couple of days here at Summer League. So I hope we can come back again.
We look forward to seeing you next year.
Thanks, Marni.
All right, thanks.
Love ya.
Oh, you too.
Big thanks to Warren and Marni for taking time to stop by our set during a very, very busy NBA Summer League. I really enjoyed catching up with both of them. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of the Legends of Sport podcast. You know, we love bringing these conversations to you, so please keep telling all your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legends of Sport, and our Instagram at Legends of Sport. And, of course, my photography can be found on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Carlin Barker, our editors, Sean Gosser and Addison Xiao, and our intern, Will Allen. Big shout-out to Fujifilm and Memento for being great supporters of the Legends of Sport podcast while we were in Las Vegas, where we recorded these episodes at NBA Summer League. A big, big thanks to Ryan Gentry and his crew as well for helping us get through a very hectic time during Summer League. Thank you very much. Thanks again to all of our loyal followers, and we'll see you next week with another great episode of the Legends of Sport podcast.